balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Episode number 177. Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. I am your host, Lori Jill Eisenstadt, IBCLC, which stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. And as most of you know, my world is all about helping moms with breastfeeding and anything related to breastfeeding. I've had another really busy week in the All About Breastfeeding space. This is the last day to get on board with Elizabeth Joseph, our resident holistic nutritionist and coach, and her summer detox program. I am excited to get going with this cleanse, as I think doing a cleanse a few times a year is a good thing for our system. Getting ourselves back on track if we have lost our way, and nothing like a jump start to boost your metabolism. And to do this with a coach who works with you, one-on-one for the whole program, and answers all your questions, rather than go it alone, is a very nice feature of this program. If you want to participate, get in touch with Elizabeth right now at www.bemoreraw.com, BEMORERAW.com. She may be closing the doors to the program if she has enough people yet, I don't know. But contact her if you want to get in and tell her that Lori sent you. She has taken excellent care of some of my own family members, and I just know she will take great care of you. I also had a lovely client of mine, Allison, stop by today. I was commiserating with her about how I needed some baby photos for my All About Mothering membership site. And she not only offered to let me use some of her photos for the site, but she also offered to come to my office and add to some of the pictures that I had on my wall for like 7 years. She brought by some absolutely beautiful pictures and even hung them for me herself, which I have to say was quite nice, because if she left it up to me, they might have taken a few more days or more until I got around to hanging them myself. If you go into the All About Breastfeeding Community Facebook page, you will see the pictures. Anyone interested in a maternity or newborn picture photography session, just check out Allison at Allison, ALLISON .WOLKE photography.com. That's allison.wolkephotography.com, and I will have that information in the Facebook site. All you have to do is go to Facebook and search for All About Breastfeeding Community, and you can join. The information will be in there, and it will also be in the show notes. And last but not least, I released my first ebook called The Fourth Trimester. The first 12 weeks at home with a newborn can be quite overwhelming, and as a lactation consultant, this is when I see most of the moms that I work with. I see some prenatally, but I see a lot in those first few months postpartum. I've been through it. I know thousands of women who have been through it, and I meet women every single day who are going through it. And the first 12 weeks at home, that fourth trimester, is notorious for being quite overwhelming as a new mother. For any new moms or moms who have been there, who are listening, you know what I mean. When we're pregnant, we just, we have no idea just how hard and tiring being a new mommy can be. Doesn't matter what anybody tells us. We're just in a very different place when it actually happens to us. And I know that I spent the first few months kind of kicking myself for not preparing for this time period in the practical ways that really mattered and was really helpful. We can never prepare 100%, and as long as we're alive and breathing, there are always going to be the unknowns that we cannot control and account for. However, when you've lived through this time period yourself a few times, and you've been like me and counseled hundreds of women about the fourth trimester like I have, and you facilitate hundreds of postpartum groups, and you listen and you get feedback from moms in the groups that you're facilitating like I have, you start hearing the same things over and over and over about what we could have, should have done to prepare for the fourth trimester. So we want this time to go as smooth as possible. The problem is the media tells us, and all the lists and the books and everything, they tell us we should be doing some things to prepare, like the baby's room and furniture and toys and carriages and car seats and baby clothes and swings, and all of that is important, and yet some of the most practical things are not really talked about or just a little blip on the screen mentioned. And interestingly enough, these things are some of the most important things that will help keep us the most sane. That is what the fourth trimester is all about. I hope you like this book. You should buy one for yourself, buy one for a friend of yours. It's not a huge book to read. You're not going to get overwhelmed. You're not going to lose your spot. It is incredibly focused on this specific time period, the fourth trimester, helping you prepare and get organized for that time period. And it's most helpful to be able to start this in your last trimester. So to begin reading this and getting yourself all organized and prepared for new motherhood is a great thing to do. You can get this book at allaboutmothering.com/fourth, FOURTH, dash trimester dash ebook. One more time, www.allaboutmothering.com/fourth dash trimester dash ebook. Again, I'll put this all in the show notes. All right, so this is the news for the week, and we can now move on to today's show topic, which really all started from an email I received. In the same week, there were a few questions about pumps in the All About Breastfeeding community group. I had just an over-the-top amount of questions about the same topics in the private consults that I did. So it was just on my brain. So I decided to post on the Facebook group a survey asking information about pumps. Between the emails I receive and the questions in the All About Breastfeeding group and the ones I get asked in my private practice and during breastfeeding classes, here are some of the most common questions I get asked on a regular basis. Moms are wanting to know which pumps are the best, which ones they should pick from the list on their insurance company, which ones are the most comfortable and efficient. They're asking how frequently and how long to pump each pumping session. They're not sure what's a normal experience as far as any soreness or pain or discomfort that they should or should not be feeling when they're pumping. And they're asking many questions about the correct use of the pump. Well, since I am not using the pumps myself, and even if I were, my experience would be limited, it would be just me. And since I don't want to rely on all my suggestions and advice coming from the pump company representatives and their literature, I think it's best to go straight to the source, the moms who are in the trenches, the moms who are using the pumps. On a daily basis in my practice, I'm asking moms how they feel about the pumps they're using, what they like, what they dislike, what's comfortable, what's not, and I have all of this in my head. So I decided to do a very basic survey so I can get some good responses from my community. Since I have this great group of women in the Facebook community group who are all happy to share their thoughts, I thought going back to this group and asking them the questions people were asking me would be of huge value. And it was. The only thing that I did not account for was the fact that some moms have more than one pump. Since this can change the accuracy of the results, I asked the moms to choose one pump, keep that in mind, and respond to the questions with that one pump in mind. Is that confusing to you? Well, let me explain to you why I asked the moms to just answer with one pump in mind. Okay, so here's the deal. A few of the questions have to do about pump usage, efficiency, effectiveness, and comfort. Now, if a mom is switching between using two pumps in this same day, her responses about things like comfort is somewhat skewed. I know that if you use a pump that it's like so comfortable and you use it twice a day, your tolerance for so can be quite fine for months. But if you take that same pump and you now use it 4 times a day, your so tolerance for a little soreness can turn to a description of, my nipples are really painful after 4 pumps consistently with that same pump in a day. Another example, pump motors do not work as efficiently after a certain amount of pumping hours. So, if you use one pump a couple of times a day, your perception of its effectiveness and how long it lasts is going to be quite different than if you were using that pump 4 times a day. So if you're using 2 pumps and one you use twice a day and the other you use twice a day, maybe one at work and one you keep at home, both pumps will last a longer period of time. Not necessarily longer pumping hours, but a longer period of time, which, when asked about the effectiveness of it, it will give you the impression that XYZ pump, well, that pump lasted me a whole year, when in fact, if you used it 4 times a day rather than twice, well, that pump might not have been very comfortable and or efficient for a whole year. Maybe it would have been for 6 months. These are just 2 examples of why I wanted those who were taking the survey to have just one pump in mind as they answered the questions. I'm first going to go through the survey and the responses. As I go along, I will share some of the thoughts that come to my mind about the responses, and I will end the show with some additional thoughts about the survey and some additional suggestions about some of the topics brought up. Okay, so let's get going with the survey. I would like to first thank the 21 moms who took the time to fill out the survey. The first question was, what is the make and model of your pump? 12 are using the Medela pump-in style. 1 is using the Medela Symphony, which is a hospital-grade pump. 3 are using the Amita Pure Liors. 2 are using the Spectra 2. 1 is using the Philips Avent. 1 is using the S1 and the S9 Plus. Well, this is not much of a surprise here. Several years ago, when the insurance companies began issuing pumps to moms, it was such an incredible fiasco. They were giving away pumps that were cheaper than cheap. They were damaging moms, creating breast pain, and causing low supply. It was really hard for us lactation consultants to try and explain this to moms. After all, they were happy they were getting pumps for free. The way they saw it, they were saving themselves $350 or more. But the way we saw the whole situation was quite different. When we met with moms who were suffering with pain and low milk supply and they were looking for our help, one of the first changes we suggested was switching to another pump, preferably a hospital-grade pump. Of course, this meant them spending money to rent the pump. Since the pump they were using was free, it took some convincing to explain why a different pump would be better. Bottom line, I would tell moms that if the pump they were using created such a high level of pain that they reduced the pumping frequency and the time, and it caused them a great deal of pain and stress and suffering, what was the point in continuing using the same pump? When moms continued with the pump that was causing the problem, we noticed a significant drop-off in moms pumping and breastfeeding. And when they switched to a more comfortable pump, the rates of continuing were high. It's easy to decipher those results. Use a pump that's causing pain and suffering and low milk supply, equal, you're less likely to continue. Use a pump that decreased your pain, increased your comfort, and increased your output, you're more likely to continue pumping, getting through the rough parts, and returning to breastfeeding. Along with cheap, poorly made pumps being a problem, we also had a problem at that time with some of the insurance companies. A lot of them were not issuing the pump until after the baby was born. And for moms who had a preemie or a baby in the NICU or having breastfeeding problems, this was unacceptable. They couldn't wait to get a pump. But unfortunately, they also didn't want to spend money on a pump that they would be getting any day, and this is what they would tell us. We had our work cut out for us in this area also, because it was common for moms not to get that pump any day, but to wait and wait and wait, and maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, finally get their pump. The problem is, your breasts do not stay in a holding pattern, waiting to be stimulated, and then quickly respond by increasing the volume. The result of all this waiting would be, well, you guessed it, a lack of pumping on mom's part, or pumping with an inferior pump, equal less and less milk volume. By the time they healed or got their pump, for many, the breastfeeding was lost. Thank goodness the insurance companies have gotten their act together and are doing much better. They are issuing higher quality of pumps more often and are getting the pumps to moms in a timely fashion. The world of insurance-issued pumps is not perfect, but it's far better than the state it was a few short years ago. When I asked where did you get your pump from, 13 said from their insurance company, 5 purchased it themselves, 1 was given or loaned it, and 2 said other. These answers are very different than 5 years ago when most moms were purchasing pumps themselves or getting them as gifts. And there was also a lot of pump sharing. This has been majorly reduced since more are getting ones issued for free from their insurance company. The couple that said other, they said they're getting it from an insurance and a friend. One said they wanted us to know they got reimbursed from the insurance company. And one was renting it from a breastfeeding store, so they were renting a hospital-grade pump. Another said that she was sent the pumps to try by the owner of a pump company after she had heard that she had tried all the other brands and was still struggling to produce a full supply. I gather her friend was president of FLCA, which I think is Florida Lactation Consultant Association, and her friend said she really wanted to help. And this mom said she had amazing results and ultimately wanted to share this pump with other moms. For those who paid for their pump, I wanted to know about how much they paid. 2 paid less than $100, 1 between $100 and $150, 2 between $250 and $300, and 3 paid over $300. And for me, there were no surprises here because the very good pumps that you can do both at the same time, electric, are typically over $300, between $300 and $400. When I asked how they learned how to use the pumps, 15 said they were self-taught, 3 said they were shown by a hospital staff, and 2 were shown by a family or friend. And this I also find pretty typical. If you're not sure how to use your pump and have no one to show you, many of the pump manufacturers have their representatives giving demos on YouTube. So, my suggestion is, do what all moms seem to do. Go to Google or YouTube it. Now here's a couple of things that are interesting. When I asked about, are they confident that they're using the pump correctly, 20 said yes and 1 said no. But when I asked about the confidence that they're using the right size flanges and the parts, 10 said yes, 5 said no, and 6 said they weren't sure. So this was interesting to me. 20 moms said they were confident they were using the pumps correctly. However, only 10 said they were confident they were using the right size flanges, 5 said they were not confident, and 6 said they were not sure. This is a very common question I have when I'm working with the mom during a consult. Moms want to discuss the size of their flange and they want to be sure it's the correct size. The first thing I ask them is it totally comfortable? Are you pumping for the recommended time and getting the average volume? If the answer is yes to all of these, I tell them that, while I'm happy to watch them pump, the more than likely they probably have the right size. And why mess with a good thing just because you think you need another size? And that thinking usually is what moms tell me, is they're just looking at the size of the flange and the opening in the nipple and thinking that it doesn't look like the right size. But in actuality, it's totally comfortable for them and they're able to get enough milk for their baby. So my attitude on that one is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes the flange is actually a good size, but the pump is being misused, and that's why they're in pain. The pump is either turned on and the mom turns that suction way up high because she thinks she's going to get more milk, rather than increase it gradually. Sometimes with moms, the flange is good, the suction is fine, but they're pumping way too long, like a half hour or more. Sometimes moms are spending way too much effort and they're like kneading their breasts like you would when you were making dough. When you do this during pumping, knead and knead and knead your breast, your nipple is probably moving around inside the flange and you're causing internal breast swelling. I just suggest, don't knead your breast, don't massage while the pump is going on. Why don't you just try hands off your breast and just let the pump do its thing? And try that for a day and see if that makes any difference for you. As a lactation consultant, it is always interesting to see a mom pump and to ask her what her pumping habits are. I have seen some moms do some pretty cockamamie things with their pump. The kneading of the breast, the pressing of the flanges so hard into the breast tissue that it leaves compression marks for when they take the pump off. Some are using the hands-free bra, which I love, but the bra is too loose and the flanges are not staying put. Therefore, the pump is causing the lower half of the nipple and a lot of the breast tissue to get sucked into that flange. While mom is busy multitasking, she doesn't realize this until she takes the flanges off and clearly can see that the pump was sucking in the wrong tissue. Some moms, well, they fall asleep while pumping and the parts move. I have to say, remembering how tired I was if I was a pumping mom, this would definitely be happening to me. I would be tired and then I'd be sitting down and I would be lulled into the sound of the whooshing of the pump. That would definitely put me to sleep. But come on, don't get insulted. You got to have a sense of humor when it comes to this subject. I'm saying it would happen to me and it doesn't surprise me that it happens to moms. But asking a mom what her pumping habits are and watching her pump really helps me to get to the bottom of why a good pump with the right size flanges could still be killing her nipples. The next question I asked is, why are you using the pump? Well, one said that she is exclusively pumping for a baby who is not latching. One said she's pumping temporarily because she's in pain with breastfeeding. 3 are pumping temporarily to help increase their supply. 12 are replacing breastfeeding during working hours. And 4 are collecting milk to prepare for going back to work. And these answers were no surprise. A majority of moms, they're pumping largely because they're collecting milk to go back to work, and they're pumping on a regular basis when they're at work to replace the breastfeedings and provide milk for their baby when they're not with them. And then we have a sprinkling of moms who are pumping because they're in pain, they're trying to increase their supply. And this only said there's one mom who's pumping because she's exclusively pumping for a baby that's not latching. I do find that those numbers are greater than they were even 10 years ago. More moms recognize the health benefits of providing their milk for their baby, and if their babies are not latching on for one reason or another, they are putting in that hard work and effort and exclusively pumping for their baby. When I asked moms, when you're pumping, are you pumping both sides at the same time? I am so incredibly thrilled that 19 out of 21 moms said yes, they're pumping from both sides. 2 said they're not. And this has changed a lot from quite a few years ago when I met more moms than not who are only pumping one side at a time. And they had a lot of different reasons for doing so, but probably the most common ones are they just felt like they could not coordinate holding the pump with both flanges and doing something else at the same time. And of course, I can appreciate that, but I would try to tell them it may be in your best interest to just put the pump on 15 minutes both sides and then you're done and then get to whatever tasks you wanted to do rather than 15 and 20 and 15 and 20. So 30 or 40 minutes of pumping versus 15 minutes of pumping. You can see why I really encourage moms to do both sides at the same time. Since this survey was anonymous, like I said, I don't know who said that they were not pumping both sides, but I also find that some moms are only doing one side at a time because they have a lot of milk and they're feeding their baby from one side and the other side is really full, and this allows them to be able to pump the other side and store that milk. Of course, for this mom, that is fine, and of course it is incredibly convenient for them. The other reason I think that we have more moms pumping both sides at the same time is that the hands-free bra have become more popular, and I talk about that a little bit later on. On average, how many minutes do you pump each time? Well, 7 moms said less than 15 minutes, 3 moms said 15, 11 said 15 to 30, and thank goodness there are no moms who are pumping any more than 30 minutes. And I used to run into that a lot. I would say that the average pumping time is 15 to 20 minutes, and I would agree that this is a pretty good average time to pump. It's enough time to get a bulk of the milk out for that feeding session. You're never totally empty. You can have several letdowns during a pumping session. If you pump for more than that, you really start aggravating and irritating your breast tissue. So I think 15 to 20 minutes is a pretty good average time. And if you get more milk, but you leave it on for 30 minutes and you hate pumping, and then you start to skip pumpings because of the pain, well, then what does leaving it on for 30 minutes, how does that really help you? If over time, usually a quick period of time, it's going to cause you to hate pumping and pump less frequently. I then asked, on the scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate your pump? 0 being the worst and 10 the best. This also, there was pretty much no surprise. 3 moms gave it a 10, 2 moms gave it a 9, and 8 moms gave it an 8. So 8 moms, which is a pretty good average, said that they would rate their pump as an 8 as far as pumping experience. 3 moms gave it a 7, 2 moms gave it a 6, 2 moms gave it a 5, 1 mom gave it a 4, and thank goodness there's nobody that gave their pumps a 1, 2, or 3 because I would be wondering why they're using it. The moms who gave it a 4, a 5, and a 6, I don't know what pumps you're using, but I would strongly encourage you to ask around, listen to this podcast, think about pumps that other moms are using, and consider purchasing or asking for a gift another pump. If you could get your pump and rate it to an 8, 9, or 10, I would say that's optimal. I can't imagine pumping on a regular basis with the comfort and experience level being at a 4, 5, or 6. When I asked moms, would you choose to use this pump again? 15 said yes, and 6 said no. And I only imagine those 6 are probably the moms who were on that scale of 4, 5, 6, and 7 as far as the experience they had with their pump. When I asked moms, how likely are you to recommend this pump to another mom? 70% said the pump that they're currently using, they would recommend it to another mom. When I asked if they're using a flange brand that came with their pump, every single mom, 21 moms, said that they are using the flange that came with their pump. Then I was curious about hands-free bras, and I asked what they're using to hold the parts in place, and I had 13 responses. 4 said they're using the Medela Easy Expression bra. 5 said Simple Wishes bra. 1 said the Rumina brand, Rumina. I'm not that familiar with that brand. And another said Pump Ease brand. And 3 checked other. And the moms who checked other, 1 said that they made one themselves. Another said she used a sports bra and cut holes into it, which pretty much she made herself. And another mom said that she was using the Bravado Designs Women's Clip and Pump hands-free nursing bra accessory. I am all for moms being creative and making their own bra. When I asked moms, what would you like us to know about your pumping experience, I received 20 answers. 9 moms said, I have no problems pumping, and I like to collect and store milk for my baby. 3 said, I have no problem pumping, however, I just don't like to pump. 7 moms said, I have no problem pumping, however, I dislike it, but I do it anyway for my baby. 4 moms said, I just can't wait to be done pumping. 2 said, I plan on pumping for a specific time, and then I am done. And 4 moms said that they're going to keep pumping, but they're going to quit when their baby turns a year old. These responses are of no surprise to me at all. Pumping is definitely a labor of love for most mothers. They're doing it because they want their babies to have their milk, and they're trying their best to avoid formula. This is quite admirable, as pumping is surely not fun. It's like another job. I mean, moms are using their breaks at work and their lunch hour to sit and pump for their babies. If their babies are not directly breastfeeding, they're hooking themselves up to a pump 8 or 9 times a day. Certainly not what they planned on when they thought of breastfeeding their baby. Pumping moms need all the help and support we can give them. Then I asked moms to please use this space to explain anything you need to in further detail. And here are a couple of responses that I got. 1 said their son is taking solids. He's 9.5 months. She's had a pleasant experience with breastfeeding this time around and plans to do so for a while. Another mom said that she's used multiple pumps, and the responses she gave are for her experience with her newest pump. I thank you for that. Another mom says, I was a surrogate pumping for a baby while I was away from the baby. She exclusively nursed the baby for 1 month, then just pumped to relieve her pain. And the last mom who responded here said, I struggled really hard to make enough milk for my son, and I never felt like I could pump enough. With my second baby, I have a stronger, different pump, and I feel like it's making a difference, a big difference in my output. Then I asked moms to use another area of the survey, this space, to offer any information that I didn't ask that they think is important for us to know. So 1 mom said, I've used multiple pumps and prefer the pump I'm using now. Previously, she was using a pump-in style. She said she received this pump as a shower gift from her mother at the time when insurance did not provide a pump for free. Given the choice between the two, I would take the Amida or any other pump that will allow control of the speed and suction on a gradual scale. My Medela pump only had 2 speeds. Another mom said, I finished pumping when my baby was almost 13 months. I answered the questions as if I was still pumping. I hated pumping with a passion, but I did it for my baby. I then have another mom who answered this question, but I'm going to save that for the end. I wanted to say here that to the initiated mother, pumping becomes second nature after a while. To the uninitiated, there is a lot to learn, and there are fun tricks and tips to make your life easier. If you join the Facebook group, it'll give you plenty of opportunity to ask other moms your pumping questions. Another way to get a lot of your questions answered is by going to the area on the podcast page that I've put together a series of podcasts that are all on pumping and preparing to go back to work. You can find that at www.allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/pump. All right, so now I just wanted to make some comments about some of the survey questions. When I asked about the recommended pumps, no one in the survey mentioned the Hygeia pump. However, I would say that the most popular pumps, the most predictable as far as getting high marks, as far as comfort and efficiency, are the ones that were mentioned. The Medela Symphony is a hospital-grade pump. The Medela Pump-In Style are what most moms are using, along with the Amida Pure Liors and Spectra. So if any moms here are looking to find out which pump should I get from my insurance company, look to see if any of these are on your list. The other thing we need to understand is we just need to accept the fact that women were just built differently than the next woman. Some of us are more sensitive in the nipple areola juncture and in the breast tissue than the next mom. Some moms have nipples so small that they find it hard getting a good fit. And the same for the opposite extreme. Some moms' nipples are very, very large. Some moms have had nipple piercings and perhaps scar tissue, and some have skin tags. All of these issues can have an impact on how they feel about the pump and their comfort level. This is why I speak in terms of averages, and I shy away from recommending one specific pump brand over the other. However, as you can see, there are just a few pump manufacturers that seem to rise above all the other pumps that are available. My recommendation, I say, be smart. And if you don't know, go with one of the ones mentioned, knowing that they are the most predictable as far as efficiency and comfort. Your pumping comfort will have a lot to do with long-term pumping, and I would just stay away from the cheaper pumps just because they're less money, or I would probably stay away from the newest and greatest and latest pump that came out of the market, because that hasn't had much time for moms to give them good feedback. So basically, I would stay with tried and true pumps. I also wanted to talk about pump sharing. I am really happy to see that the number of moms sharing pumps has been greatly reduced. While I know that sharing pumps can be a savings for families, it's generally not in your best interest because many of the pumps, they just cannot be fully sterilized. And what happens is that moms think that they purchase their own kit and they think that they can be safe, but some of the parts in some of the pumps, it can still have bacteria growing and you cannot clean and sterilize that, and it cannot be fixed just by getting your own parts. So I'm a huge fan of using your own pump. Another big problem is that pumps, well, they don't last forever. And after a reasonable amount of use, they become less and less efficient. Since there's no alarm on the pump that lets you know it's running out of juice, what happens is some moms are using pumps at various stages of efficiency. Some are halfway through their shelf life, so to speak, and some are on their last leg. Years ago, moms were purchasing pumps from used stores, from online, from all different kinds of places, and they could get a $350 pump for $25, and ka-ching, they think that they've really hit a great deal, think they got a great bargain. But if the pump was on its last leg of efficiency and they didn't know it, it was only going to work for you for so long, and a bargain was not a bargain. The biggest problem with this is that moms were pumping less and less. They were thinking, you know what, maybe I'm pumping less because I'm back to work, because I'm tired, the baby was sick, the baby's been up for a few nights, maybe they're not having enough time to pump. And what they're doing is they're looking at their own supply and thinking that they're just making less and less, and not considering that it might be the pump that's the problem. So you know what this meant: less milk volume and more supplementing with formula. Moms were not wanting to spend more money on a good pump, a product that was going to enable them to get enough milk to meet their needs and their baby's needs. And yet, they were now spending money on formula, a product they admitted they did not want to give to their baby. So I spent the time trying to explain this to moms, hoping to encourage them to get a new pump so they can continue pumping enough milk for their baby. I'm not saying that was the problem all the time, but it was certainly a problem a significant amount of time to warrant having this discussion with moms. What else did we learn from the survey? One interesting thing to note is that while moms are having a much easier time learning how to use the pumps than they did years ago, thanks to more moms using pumps and willing to share their knowledge, also thanks to Google and YouTube for help, one of the same problems that still exists now, it's always been a problem, is that moms are feeling confident that they have the right fit and the right size flanges. Remember in this survey, 10 moms said they were confident they were using the right size, but 5 said they were not confident, and 6 said they weren't sure. Combined with this being one of the top 5 questions I'm asked by moms, I would say that this is an area that the pump companies can improve on. Better education and perhaps online videos to help moms feel more confident. Also, my suggestion to moms who are unsure, it may be worth your time and money to schedule an appointment with an IBCLC who can answer all of your pumping questions, including taking a look at your pump and checking for the right size fit. If you want accuracy, seeing is much better than a canned phone response. In my office, I have different flanges and sizes that you can experiment with, and a flange trial can be really helpful for long-term pumping comfort. This is also a good time to take the opportunity to remind all moms that I am a huge fan of hand expressing. I work with enough moms who find this is more comfortable for them and they see better volume results with hand pumping. It is a great skill to learn because there might be times when you're stuck without a pump. I know, crazy, but believe me, it does happen. Perhaps you forgot to take yours to work that day. Or perhaps one of the parts broke, or the motor gives out. Just saying, it's a good tool to have in your toolbox. And speaking of toolboxes and tools, it used to be a hard sell to talk to moms about using a hands-free bra. Many thought it was weird. They didn't like to be hooked up to that thing. It seemed unnatural, they would tell me. Well, I agree, but I also don't think being hooked up to a pump is very natural either. However, I could appreciate what moms are saying. And I also can appreciate their partner's reactions to see that hanging from your chest. Okay, I get it. However, once you get over that and you start using a hands-free pump, believe me, you can really appreciate the freedom that it will allow you. You can be on the computer, you can chart at work, you can hang out on Facebook, put your makeup on in the morning, hold a book to read, or frankly, just do nothing. One can see I am a huge fan of hands-free pumps. I wanted to end today's show with a couple of thoughts. Earlier I had said that I gave moms a space to use to just tell me anything that they thought was important for us to know about pumping, and I really liked this mom's response. She said, I have come to appreciate pumping even though it's not fun or enjoyable. I feel like pumping has enabled me to meet my breastfeeding goals. I'm 6 months now and still going strong, which has been great because at first my baby didn't have a great latch and lost a lot, so I would pump in between feedings, which helped me ramp up supply and feed him what I had pumped and keep the milk flowing. I work during the day, so my pump enables me to earn money to help support my family. And now that my baby is a little older and sleeps longer than he used to, I'm able to pump for relief when I need to. So my relationship with pumping has evolved. When I started, it was a task, one more item on a long to-do list, and now I have come to think of it as a privilege. I'm fortunate to have a supply of milk for my baby, and the pump helps me out. I figure I may as well make peace with it and feel gratitude rather than view it negatively and adversely affect my flow. I really appreciated what that mom said. I can't give you credit, the survey was anonymous, but I do want to thank you for those thoughts. I often tell moms who are not thrilled about pumping so much that they kind of need to look at it as their BFF, as their best friend, because it's replacing their baby and giving them the opportunity to continue to provide milk for their baby, which is what they're telling me that they want to do. And I think that this mom's sentiments, for anybody who's like not thrilled with pumping, just replay this part and try and get into the mindset of this mom. She is basically turning this whole thing around, and it's a mindset. And basically saying, thank goodness for the pump. It's affording me the opportunity to go back to work, to bring in money for my family. And I'm looking at it with peace and with gratitude rather than viewing it negatively. I think that can really help for some moms who are struggling with pumping. I do acknowledge pumping is a lot of work. It's what I think is another full-time job. And you have to pay a lot of attention to the pump, to storing, and everything else that goes along with providing breast milk for your baby through the pump. So I wanted to thank you for that. And I don't know, for some reason, this topic has been exhausting, as if like I'm the one who's been pumping. And all I'm doing is just talking about it. But like I said, my hat truly goes off to all mothers, and a special tip of my hat to, and a virtual hug to all the moms who are pumping milk for their babies. Thank you for providing information for this survey to all moms who filled it out. I encourage you to go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/pump for that series on going back to work and pumping. Until the next show, bye-bye.